And I can see Anthony and I can see Hawk. I can see half of Hawk. So, and now I've got 4 different. Okay. Yeah. Dude, I may have to, on the second Saturday of the month, I may have to just get an airplane ticket and fly up to fly up to Spokane. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, we're missing a couple of power players this week. Yeah. Geez, well, I do remember that Brian and I had a session once, just the two of us, but I forget what it was about. Something Tolkien related. Okay, now I can see you all. I just retoggled. I see myself very well. I take up half the big screen here, and I can see Anthony and I can see Hawk.
Yep. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Okay.
I can hear you fine.
We have one microphone working, but at least it's working.
Excuse me.
All
I
right.
can see somebody's bookcase and
That's Hawks.
Okay. So
and a green curtain.
bring in the introduction, or do you want, unless you want me to?
I can do it.
Go for
Ready?
it.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the official AI Tolkien Society monthly meeting for October of 2023. My name is Anthony, and I'll be moderating our today's discussion in place of our Supreme Secretary, Brian Huseland, who is unfortunately absent due to a personal matter he has to attend to. But I think we should still have a fairly good but well-rounded discussion. So let's go ahead. Let's go around and do some introductions. Like I said, my name is Anthony of the East Farthing, and I've been with Tolkien since this particular smile of the Tolkien Society for about 6 years now. And I officially joined the International UK Tolkien Society in 2021. And my first encounters with Tolkien were around the time that the Peter Jackson films were coming out. I kind of read the parts of the Two Towers and The Return of the King, but I didn't fully enmesh myself in Tolkien's works until around college, and then I was hooked from then on. So that's sort of my introduction. Gary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm. I guess if you took a map and overlaid Middle Earth on Washington State, since I'm in Mountain Home, Idaho,
Yeah.
I'd be very close to Mordor. I could smell,
You
I could
serve the
smell
Dark
the
Lord.
sulfur. Yeah, but yeah, I'm down here in Mountain Home, Idaho, and I was introduced to Tolkien when I was going to the University of Wisconsin in 1965, and by a very unique couple. And I've been a fan of it ever since. I first read The Hobbit and enjoyed it immensely. And then after I joined the Air Force, I read the entire read the entire Lord of the Rings for the first time, and I've read that about 4 or 5 times. So I joined the Tolkien Society officially last year, I think,
Oh wow.
sometime last year, a year and a half ago. And hope they send out renewal reminders. And um, and I've been attending these for I think what 2 years now, something like that. So yeah, I enjoy talking about Tolkien, his works, and his influence on other folks. And right now we're discussing how Tolkien was influenced because we're all, I guess, in our own way, standing on the shoulders of others. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's who I am and that's where I'm located.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
I'm Hawk Robinson, president and founder of the Tolkien Society, an official smile of the UK Tolkien Society. I think we formed around 2005 or so, shortly after I moved up to Spokane. I will be in and out. I'm just getting all the tech trying to get fixed here. And then unfortunately I'm juggling the community center stuff, but I will be in and out. I really wish I could join more of the conversation. I did bring a few goodies from my birthday last month, or in September. Three of them are not so special at this point, but one of them is kind of special. Pictures by j.r.r. Tolkien in a photo album style. Trying to get to the right here. Okay,
There we go. Can you see that, Gary?
I see a blank page right now.
Oh.
Oh, there it goes. Yeah, there he is. Let me toggle to another. Okay, yeah, that's better. Now you can
So
see.
it goes
Yeah.
through. We've got the black and white print and the color print, and it just goes through. And all of this artwork has been available in other books, but this was somebody gave me as a wonderful little present. This is from 1979,
Oh wow.
so it's a nice little kind of collector's item.
Yeah, he was still around then, right? Yeah.
No, he passed away in 73, I
Yes.
think, September
Yeah.
73.
Oh, really? 73. Okay.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
I got that mixed up.
Yep, no, we're just, anniversary of that was just not a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like, let me just check something here to make sure that the audio is actually broadcast.
And then
Good, okay. Well, that's his audio. Let's make sure our audio is broadcasting.
read the entire Lord of the Rings for the first.
Oh, wow. Major lag.
Yeah, that seems to be the case a lot where our the streaming audio tends to lag behind the time we're actually talking, just from what I've noticed.
No, that's in sync.
And
But it's,
and I've been attending these for. Geez. Yeah, I realize what you're talking about.
okay, good. As long as the other microphone, I just want to make sure your microphone is.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so
I went to reach a cup of coffee and it was up to my lips long before it showed up in the screen.
Yeah.
Right now we're just.
So yeah, since we're finished with introductions, does anyone have any Tolkien-related news?
Other than my goodies there, I do not.
Okay. I know Chris Cooperstein had sent. Oh, Gary, did you want to say
Yeah,
something?
that's what I saw was Chris commented about Jeremy Boring from The Wire is producing a TV series
Yeah.
on the Pendragon cycle, and of course this is I guess a modern day Arthurian legend, but
Yeah.
Tolkien was awfully interested in that, and I think he wrote a little bit about it too. So that's interesting. I checked it out. What's the guy's name? Lawhead.
Yeah. Stephen R. Lawhead.
Yeah, and anyway, there's he relies on the Welsh because the first book is Taliesin, who
Yeah.
was in their legendum, uh, a poet, and then it gets into some of the other stuff. I think there's like 5 or 6 books in all that he
Yeah.
wrote.
Yeah, I've only read. I started reading Lawhead's the Dragon King trilogy in the Hall of the Mountain. I think it's in the Hall of the Dragon King is the first book, and it seemed pretty good and suspenseful so far. So, but I've not touched the Pendragon cycle. Interested to follow. Maybe I'll take a look at it sometime.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to. Well, I think you got to subscribe to the Daily Wire to
Oh,
to uh, see any of this stuff. But
oh yeah. Well, that's
he's
okay.
trying to expand. I mean, he's he's putting out razors and chocolate and all kinds of stuff besides commentary on current events.
Yeah.
With the different people. I mean, I don't know if well, Jordan Peterson, the
Oh yeah.
psychologist
Yeah.
from Canada.
Yeah.
He's working for him now, and Candace Owens and a few other folks I know. So
Yeah.
I don't know what his end game is, but this might be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Although I know folks here can be very critical as far if somebody strays too far from the
The source material.
the source material itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I never read Robert Jordan, but enjoyed the TV show as entertainment that Amazon just put out. They just finished
Yeah.
their second
Yeah,
season.
I watched that too.
Yeah. I'm sure you have a lot to say
And
about it.
I'm not a Jordan fan. I'm not. My youngest son is.
Oh, yeah.
I am not. I like the first book in
Yeah,
the series.
I
And
do
then
too.
For me, it diminished with each release.
Yeah.
And I never got past the 5th book.
Oh, really? Okay.
But anyway, it seemed like they wrapped everything up in the final episode.
Well,
Too quickly. And apparently they're going to have a 3rd season. I don't know where it goes on from there, but apparently it does.
is this the Wheel of Time?
Yeah, the Wheel of Time, because the 5,000
Yeah.
year cycle is over. The individual born as a dragon, does not succumb to evil.
You don't have to lean into it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah,
But-
so yeah, I wonder what streaming platform or network the Pendragon cycle will premiere on. Did it say in the article?
No, but I thought, basically the stuff that they put out before,
Yeah.
entertainment wise, has been exclusively on his network or on his streaming platform itself, the Daily Wire.
Oh, I didn't know they had a.
Like I said, you got to subscribe to it,
Yeah.
but who knows?
Okay. Yeah. Is there any other Tolkien related news you came across? Yeah, I usually follow the OneRing.net, but I haven't really seen too much.
No,
Yeah.
I've got my latest issue, Amun Hen.
Oh, I'm on Hen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And,
I haven't opened it yet, but
yeah, it came in the mail yesterday, the day before.
yeah, I get
And
them
it
online.
was, well, I still like paper. I'm old.
Yeah. Well, I did get some paper publications.
Yeah, it's paper. It's in print form and also it's online. But this time it was about the music of Tolkien, and I don't think Tolkien produced any music, but I know Howard Shore of. There's somebody else here. No?
Yeah. Well, pardon it for interrupting, but it looks like we have another visitor. She's getting set up over here. So,
Okay.
This is, this is broadcast live and everything. Okay, good.
Anyway, it's about, I don't know how Tolkien was influenced. I haven't read it yet. Tolkien was influenced by music, or music people were influenced by Tolkien to write the music. Like,
Both.
I think in one, there's the heavy metal. Never been a big fan of heavy metal, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I do have a lot to
maybe
say on
some of
that
the
topic.
iconic, you know,
As a
some
musician
of
and
the
such.
iconic, what do you call it? The images that you see uh, on their album covers and stuff like that
Yeah.
were influenced by
Yeah,
him.
no, Led Zeppelin. There's around half a dozen songs that are directly. There's a website, I think it's still around, from Professor Chris Seaman, called the Tolkien Music List. If you look that up, and
Oh.
he's been compiling all the music that was officially or unofficially inspired by Tolkien, and he marks what it is. He's been a speaker on our Tolkien Mood a few times in our early years, and that's a great list if you want to. When I was a DJ, I used that list to compile my playlist for special shows. I do Tolkien-focused, inspired shows and such.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm Hawk Robinson.
Oh, hi. I'm Anthony.
Hi, Anthony. I'm Esther.
Esther, nice to meet you.
And he's in Idaho. You want to introduce yourself?
Gary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Gary Haglund. I'm living in Mountain Home, Idaho. I'm a former resident of Western Washington, and we left for a couple of good reasons. And I love Idaho, but not close to where we are is not close to Spokane.
Right.
So I got to do it over the, online.
And our secretary Brian couldn't make today because of family stuff, and Chris said he couldn't make it for some reason.
Yeah, it's taking his kid somewhere.
And he's down in the Tri-Cities area.
Yes.
And then another one who's here, he's down joining the community because he wanted to join some of the games.
Yeah, why not?
So those are some of our regulars, and we get other people coming and going all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll have special guests every now and then, especially when we do our annual Tolkien convention. We'll have published authors and things like that. We do a bunch of Tolkien games. So, well, welcome. I assume you heard about us through Meetup?
Yeah, through Meetup.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so it's every month from 1 to 3, and this is how we do it, and it's open discussion. We'll try to have some theme, some topic to get things going. But if you have a topic or question, and all levels of knowledge are welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want people who know nothing and are brand new,
Yep.
and then there's the scholarly people and everybody in between.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I've read all of the Lord of the Rings books, and I watched the movies, all of the movies several times, including the extended cuts.
Oh, yeah. Same
So
here.
I know a little bit.
Okay.
I heard you guys were talking about Lord of the Rings and inspired music and just the soundtrack in general. I don't know if you've had just
Oh,
listened
yeah.
to the soundtrack
Oh,
on Spotify. It's great homework doing music.
I actually
sure.
have all of them on CD and stuff.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
As I said, I used to be a DJ, and so I bought, and I would sometimes get special, studios would sometimes send me CDs and stuff like that, special
Nice.
releases, things like that. Also, pawn shops are a great source. And there's a lot, so first of all, Gary was talking about, was Tolkien inspired, or were the musicians inspired? Tolkien was inspired by music. If you read the Silmarillion,
Oh, yes.
the beginning chapter with the Ainu Lindale, which is the creation of the universe through song and music. The entire creation of his universe, the Song of Arda, pervades all of existence. He talks about how he loved music, but he didn't have the ability. And of course, his wife Edith was an accomplished pianist, not a professional one, but it was a common thing at that time period to
Yeah.
learn to play that well.
Yeah, amateur.
And he loved to listen to music, and always hoped that artists would build music based on his visions and ideas. And I have some records, some vinyl records, with Tolkien and such involved with some of these performing artists and such,
Yeah.
inspired, and how much he loved some of what they did in classical and folk styles.
Yeah.
And then, so he was inspired by music and his love of music, even though he didn't have any music ability himself. And then that has inspired many, 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 many musicians. I've tried to compose a few pieces and symphonies. I have half a dozen. I have an entire album of just Tolkien-inspired music. I'm nobody, but
Oh, you're somebody to us.
No, but as far as a musician, nobody. But and there's lots and lots of other artists who've definitely been inspired by his work. So it's a feedback loop that was created, and there's some wonderful, amazing music out there.
Yeah.
If you look up the Synthetic Zen Show Tolkien episodes, I did several episodes of just gorgeous Tolkien-inspired music that were amazing in Elvish, in Orcish, in English, and Finnish, and others, Italian, great stuff. So
That's amazing. That's something I would definitely like to listen to sometime.
yeah, you can just Google for it, and a lot of that's I've got up on YouTube and stuff like that.
Okay, I did not catch your name.
Oh, hi. My name is Esther. This is my first meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Esther.
You don't have to lean into it.
Yeah, Esther.
Yeah,
Our
it's just
microphones
nice
are
to know who we're
screwed
talking
up.
to.
Maybe this will help. I'll try this one.
Yeah, our microphone's a little screwed up, so
Somebody else was in here and changed all the settings, and
yeah.
I'm trying to get it back. So pardon the dust.
So yeah, while Hawk's doing that, so yeah, usually, so for our new attendee, our usual formats for these meetings are we do a little round of introductions, call for announcements, and then we usually do. We were just finished with kind of diving into some Tolkien-related news before you came in. Are you just asking you, Esther? Do you have any Tolkien-related news that you're aware of or would like to bring up?
Oh, not any news in particular, but there's a few things in Tolkien's books that I've definitely gone down the rabbit hole of.
Okay.
Like, the story of the hero definitely is a big thing in all of Tolkien's books, and you see it repeated with Bilbo, and just how the story of the hero all over the world is in different formats, but I think it's so written so nicely in all of his novels.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, Tolkien definitely participated in writing a sort of a heroic cycle for his own characters. Joseph Campbell, who was an anthropologist, was famous for his book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, and many other books, which talks about the hero cycle. And you can see it even in modern...
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
That was why I
Campbell.
brought
Lester mentioned that.
this volumes of Joseph Campbell here. The archaeology and everything of mythology.
Yeah. And, he did a lot of comparative mythology as well, and kind of looking at sort of common themes and stories told throughout the world. I think Tolkien imbibed a lot of, different mythologies, including, Scandinavian and Finnish mythology and so forth, to create his own invented mythology, which he kind of called his own legendarium or universe. So yeah, it's a very good insight. Speaking of mythology or legend, I don't know if anyone has had a chance to read. So today, I was thinking if anyone has got a chance to read The Fall of Arthur, which was Tolkien's own adaptation of Arthurian legend, because we've been kind of on a theme of discussing Arthurian legend and the influence of it upon Tolkien's own work. Last month we read one of the first famous expositions of Arthurian legend as written by a British scholar by the name of Geoffrey of Monmouth. He wrote a work called The History of the Kings of Britain, and it contains not only one of the first accounts of the story of King Lear, which of course was made into a famous play by Shakespeare, but also one of the first major treatments of the legend of King Arthur and his noble knights of the Round Table. Gary, did you have a chance to take a look at Tolkien's?
No, we discussed it last time we met, but I didn't. I've been kind of lacking as my Tolkien scholars for the last month or so.
Yeah, you're slacking.
I am slacking. But I
You're joking. There's no
do remember it's
Yeah.
it's legend and it's it's fiction because
Yeah.
know a little bit about history and even Roman history, and there was no emperor like who was supposed to, like he said, and uh, nobody's really sure about what happened in England when Rome, at least the western part of Rome, collapsed in 4th century BC. So, they came up with the Arthurian legend years later. I'm trying to remember when Geoffrey Monmouth um, was was when did he write this?
Wrote it around the year 1136.
Yeah,
So
1136. So, but this was the legend that was going around then, and
yeah.
would have been 700 years since the Romans left or disappeared from England.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even though yeah, so there is kind of a historical, I guess, kernel or setting to the tales. You know,
Oh yeah, sure.
Britain was part of the Roman, was a, I guess, client state or part of the Roman Empire from, you know, about 43 A.D. or after the death of Christ, years after the death of Christ until um, around 410 or 420 when the Romans left because Rome had been sacked by the Vandals, which were a barbarian group of barbarian peoples that came from outside Rome. They're Germanic, and but Geoffrey Monmouth's work can be considered pseudo historical. Doesn't but people did take it as history for a long time. That was sort of the power that book had, at least until a couple hundred years, 1600s, when there were people who pointed out that some of the things that could happen in that tale were utterly implausible. But yeah, so yeah, I guess today we can, since it's just the three of us, well, four if you include Hawk.
Well, I'm going to be in and out.
Yeah, he'll be in and out. I mean, we can kind of do sort of a wide-ranging discussion on Tolkien, kind of.
So first of all, since you're new, were there any specific topics or questions you were particularly keen to discuss?
Lately I've been thinking about how mythology is often first taken as religious text and taken as completely true, and then later, once we gain some more information as society goes on, we realize that being human isn't we're not always perfect as human, especially in translation. I was just talking to my dad about this morning, and I was wondering how, if you guys have heard from anyone else who speaks different languages, the translations of his books and his movies into different languages, are they getting the same sort of story across?
This is that's great you brought that up because Tolkien himself was a linguist, philologist.
Just a second, I got to deal with a cat.
Oh, okay.
What?
And don't forget to mention what's your name in Italy.
What?
Sauron.
Team.
Yeah,
Sauron.
Sauron. Yeah, I'll wait for Gary. Yeah, great question. Yeah. All right.
I've got
Yeah.
one thing to add to that. We need to be careful about myths and legends and stuff like that. Well, it was Virgil. Was it Virgil? Who wrote the Aeneid?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, Troy. I thought Troy was fiction. The story of Achilles and Hector and everybody like that. And then they found that Troy actually existed.
Yeah.
Now, as far as that particular story and the giant horse filled with Greek soldiers coming into Troy, as a gift. Beware of the Greeks bearing gifts.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, it the place actually existed, which had been lost until some what was his name? German archaeologist found it. I can't pronounce the name, but it in the late 19th century. So you need, maybe there's a kernel of truth to a lot of the legends, and there's a kernel of truth to that things actually did happen back in the day,
I
and
definitely
this would have
agree
been
with
a long
that.
time ago. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Um, now, to I guess Esther's second question or point, you know, we do talk. Tolkien himself talks about a lot about his work being translated into other languages, and we also have a person who comes to our meetings occasionally, but she's from Italy. Her name's Sarah, and but she's not able to come very often because she's in a different time zone. But she has read Tolkien's works in Italian, and she said it's definitely kind of a different experience. It's
Really?
yeah. You know, certain words don't seem, or the translator didn't quite translate certain English words into Italian properly, and you know, Tolkien often in his letters takes issue with certain liberties translators take on, like, the proper names of different places, and so Tolkien was very, very particular about his how his work was translated into other languages, and also, you know, supervised some of those translations himself.
How many languages did he speak?
Oh, well, he knew. I mean, obviously English, but I think he knew some French, um, maybe, and also some Welsh, Old English, of course, because that was his primary academic specialty. He knew Old Norse. He knew some Finnish. Let's see what else.
I wonder about German, because
Yes.
I mean, English is a Germanic language, and I remember specifically that he was very unhappy about how one of his works was translated into Dutch,
Yeah.
which should, yeah, closer to German than English, a lot closer to German than English is. So I'm thinking, and he at least knew some of that, and it used to be more common for people to know different languages,
Yeah.
and it's also fairly common in Europe that they do know languages. Like a lot of people in Norway, I know, speak English.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I'm sure he knew German because I think his ancestry is also German. So, yeah. How does that answer your question?
That definitely answers my question. I only know English and like a bit of Spanish. I could get around Mexico, but that's about it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so, are there any other topic, Gary? Are there any topics you wanted to bring up?
Okay. We're looking at influences on and who was influenced. We discussed that beforehand when we talked about, what is it, Stephen Lawhead
Yeah.
and his Arthurian. He's got 5 or 6 Arthurian books
Yeah.
that go all the way. It starts out with the Welsh poet. The title, anyway, is Taliesin. I haven't read it,
Yeah.
but it goes all the way up to Arthur itself. And I think he devotes two of his books to Arthur itself. But Arthur was not the first Pendragon.
No,
I don't know if you've seen the BBC series on that, on Merlin. I thought it was pretty well done.
Yeah, a TV series?
Oh, the Merlin TV series that was on BBC and on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched that a couple of times. I think that show was really well done.
Yeah, I think I've seen that too. Long time ago.
Yeah, well, it was pretty good entertainment, and I learned a little bit about Arthur and Merlin, and the time that was supposed to happen. So as far as anything else, I don't know. I mean, last time we talked about our favorite passages,
Yeah.
and I was the one who grabbed the opening to The Hobbit, which I thought was brilliant, and so did Tolkien. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit,
Yeah.
not an ordinary, wet hole full of oozy smells and ends of worms,
Yeah.
nor a dry hole filled with sand and nothing to sit down on. This was a hobbit hole, and that meant comfort. So, and then he goes on from there.
Yeah.
Tolkien does such a good job with his imagery.
Yeah, he did a great job, and I think he did a better job in The Lord of the Rings, but which I'm reading for like the 5th time.
Yeah, I've only read through the Lord of the Rings in its entirety once, but I've read sections of it multiple times. I'm currently in the process of trying to reading it through all the way a second time, and I'm at the part where the Council of Elrond has ended and the Fellowship is about to depart towards Mordor. Since we're on the topic of like favorite passages, Esther, do you have any, since you've read the Lord of the Rings books, or do you have any particular passages in mind that are some of your favorites?
Oh, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I started reading the Lord of the Rings books when I was 10.
Oh.
So, I am not like super brushed up on all of my passages, but I'll definitely get back to you next time about that.
Well, I mean, are there any like favorite scenes that can come up?
Well,
that you come up with?
definitely my favorite scene is when the party is trying to run away. I think it's from the orcs, and then they're climbing onto that big old tree, and then Gandalf calls the were they hawk? They were hawks, right? They were ginormous birds, and then
No,
they carried
eagles.
them away.
The eagles.
And then the eagles carried them away. Because
The Eagles.
I was thinking about it, like, couldn't have Gandalf really just had called the eagles from the beginning and had them take them all the way to the end? But he knew that they needed to go through their whole story.
You know what's funny about that? In one of the online Tolkien Lord of the Rings Facebook posts, that's a theme that keeps coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Why, from Rivendell, why didn't they just fly to Mordor and drop the ring in?
Yeah, exactly. It's a subject of countless cartoons and animation and memes and so forth. But actually, Tolkien himself answered this very question of why couldn't the Eagles have just taken the ring to Mordor? And you know there's a recording of this, and you know what his response was? Shut up! You can find this on YouTube.
Yeah, but well, I mean, let's face it, there wouldn't be much of a story without that.
Exactly.
No. Well, and I feel like Gandalf is almost like in on the joke, like with Tolkien throughout the story. Like he kind of embodies himself through him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sometimes wonder why Tom Bombadil couldn't have just taken it, but I think Gandalf himself addressed this in the Council of Elrond, and and his answer was that the ring doesn't have much of an effect on Tom Bombadil, and he probably wouldn't know what to do with it, so which would kind of put the world even more at risk, I suppose.
Yeah, well, Tom Bombadil was kind of a weird character anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can
what
see
was
why
he?
Yeah, I can see why they cut him out of the film, because he didn't quite have a place, and it would have slowed down the film, I think, considerably.
Yeah, and that wasn't the only thing that cut out of the film. It was the ending, where the hobbits have to go back to Hobbiton and take back the Hobbit land from Saruman.
Right. Yeah. They
no longer has its magic, but
they got rid of the scouring of the Shire sort of episode and just had Saruman be killed earlier in the film, The Return of the King.
and a well-deserved killing too, I thought.
A well-deserved one, yes, by Grima Wormtongue.
Oh gosh. But I don't know who the actor was, but he played that to a T.
Yeah, it was Brad Dourif. He's an American actor, and he's been in a bunch of films. He was one of the patients in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Okay.
1975 film directed by Milos Forman. And he's been in a bunch of other stuff I can't recall off the top of my head, but
Have you guys seen the memes of like the actor who plays Smeagol in and out of his makeup before?
Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
I don't know what particular memes you're referencing.
Well, in
but-
real life, he's like very handsome, and so you see him these pictures of him like on the red carpet of everything when he's being interviewed for the movies, and then you see the pictures of him in all of his makeup and everything, and everyone thinks it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. um, yeah, and Andy Serkis has recently done some narration, or has narrated audiobooks for, I think all three of Tolkien's main Middle-earth books, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and The Silmarillion. I don't know if anybody had a chance to listen to those yet, but I've listened to first few chapters of The Hobbit, and he does a really great job.
I think that I've listened to the Hobbit with his recording, yeah.
And, of course, no one can do Gollum like Andy Serkis,
No.
so even Tolkien himself, I think, was short of the mark.
Ah.
Um,
I'm gonna have to call. I'm gonna ask for a break right here. I gotta go get a cough
Well,
drop.
yeah. Yes, let's take a break, and we'll come back. Let's take a 5-minute or so break, and we'll come back.
Okay, be right back.
Welcome to our meetings. Did you want to, do you need to use the restroom or anything? Or?
No, I'm just fine. Yeah, I haven't lived, or I've lived in Spokane for a couple of years now, so I just
Oh, cool. Yeah,
thought
welcome.
this would be something that I
once
would
again,
like.
I'm Anthony.
Hi, Anthony. Yeah, I'm Esther.
Esther, yeah. Where are you from originally?
Seattle.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I was just there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I was actually there last month to see my family there, because I moved all the way, my family here, and I have family in Seattle, so when I turned 16, I just took a bus here.
Oh.
Yep.
How old are you now?
19.
19?
Yep.
Are you in school or anything like that right now? Or?
I just finished my high school diploma in January.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And then I have about half of my associates done, because I did my college while I was in high school with
wow.
Running Start.
Oh, Running
and
Start,
then I'll
yeah.
finish my associates in probably in the spring at Eastern Washington University.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I went there for my master's
Yeah.
degree. So.
I've just been had a lot going on lately, so I took a break from school.
Cool.
When I talk too much, I might start coughing.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll try to make up the difference. So your
Well,
voice is hoarse.
the problem with Boise or this area, Mountain Home,
Yeah.
there are lots of dust and dander, and apparently I've got an allergy to those things.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, looking at the weather reports online, they have things like, the pollen count, and,
Yeah, yeah.
what's out there, ragweed, whatever. In Western Washington, I was allergic to Scotch broom, which is some idiot brought it in. It's kind of like starlings.
Yeah.
Some German missed back home, so he imported starlings, and now look what they've done. Anyway, it's all over the I-5 corridor as you go up and down the state of Washington. Oh my God, my wife is allergic to cottonwood, so when that's in bloom, watch out.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to all types of grass, so
Really?
yeah, and my guinea pigs eat it, so it's just constant allergies 24/7.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think I'm allergic to hay, so I stay away from stables and all that. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
Well.
yeah. So back to Tolkien. So we've been discussing some of our favorite passages and certain themes, and you know, uh, things that have come up in Tolkien's works that we all identify with. Where would you like this discussion to go next? I know we've been discussing, throughout the last couple of months, you know, works that influenced Tolkien. Do we still want to discuss Arthurian legend, or do we kind of
mm,
discuss what we want to do next as far as that goes?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about it, but I mean,
Okay.
Esther's not ready for it. I was thinking about the Rings of Power, the Amazon series, because there's a lot of controversy about that.
Yeah.
I
Have you?
don't know what you think, Anthony, but
What's that?
I said I don't know what you think, but yeah,
Yeah. Have you seen?
Amazon bought 5 seasons of it.
Yeah.
So
They bought 5 seasons.
yeah,
I think seen the first. I've seen the first season, and I like it, but I feel like it could have done better.
Yeah. I feel mostly the same way.
Like, it was nice. It made me feel like nostalgic and everything, but I feel like obviously it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Right. Yeah. I watched about half of it, and before Hawk spoiled it for us by mentioning kind of who was Sauron, who was actually Sauron. I won't spoil it for anyone here, but
well, I watched the whole thing too, so
yeah, yeah,
I know who Sauron is.
yeah. I haven't, but I know who he is. So I thought in terms of like the setting and kind of the visuals were top notch. I just felt like, obviously they kind of expanded upon Tolkien's world, which I'm not as opposed to that per se. Um, I agree with Hawk in that I thought they did a really good job with the hobbits. The I think they were the Harfoots. Um, but yeah, I mean, some of the character development was kind of questionable. I think that Galadriel, Galadriel comes across as a bit impetuous and sort of rebellious. But I think she's considerably younger in this series than she, is in, the Lord of the Rings proper.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe they're trying to create some sort of character arc for her where she goes from being kind of this, sort of young warrior princess to being kind of a noble queen. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that correlates exactly with how Tolkien conceived her character. I'd have to look into his.
Yeah, but they had a hard time though because they had to compact, compress what thousands of years of history, according to Tolkien,
Yeah.
the whole Silken Age, and maybe a lead up in the First Age a little bit, into a TV show. So
Right.
I agree with you. I thought, as far as what they did is the scenery and everything else for the, translating that to the small screen rather than the large screen, although you can't say small screen anymore because,
Yeah. We all have big screen TVs.
living room, we got a 55-inch
Yeah.
flat screen. But I thought that was great. But yeah, a lot of the Harfoot characters were good. But the elves especially, I thought the dwarves were done a pretty good job on them also,
Yeah.
but the elves were like, yeah, kind of
Yeah.
meh.
Yeah.
And
I thought they were unimpressive, and
yeah, Elrond was, not what I expected, and
no.
yeah,
I did think they did a good job on the special effects makeup, though.
yeah. Well, that's something that Hollywood's got down.
Yeah. They got it
Yeah,
nailed.
with CGI and everything.
Yeah.
That's something I'm interested in. It's, specifically, I like making people look dead.
Yeah, but Yeah, I think there's definitely an issue with when it comes to like having to compress a lot of history into a single episode or two right at the beginning, just because Amazon didn't only had the rights to the Lord of the Rings, and specifically they were working off the appendices, which is kind of a bare bones outline of how the the ages.
Yeah, they didn't have the rights to a lot of Tolkien's work,
Right.
so they
Yeah.
were
There's.
limited.
Yeah. You know. So yeah, there's no reference to the Silmarillion or Unfinished Tales or Fall of Numenor or anything like any of Tolkien's posthumously published works. Um, um, yeah, do we have any idea on when season 2 is supposed to release, or has it already been released?
I I don't know. I mean, I think um, first of all, the writers and the actors strike may have affected it. Probably did,
Oh yeah.
and I have no idea if it's even finished yet. Because with the Tolkien community, you have
Oh hey, Gary, I think you're muted. Did something happen? Is your mic muted? Okay. I might have to get Hawk real quick. I'll be right back.
Can you hear me at all? No.
Oh,
Oh, yes,
Yep.
we can hear you now.
yes. Sorry about that.
Oh, actually I hit my mouse by mistake and hit
Oh,
that.
that's okay. Yeah, I figured you must have I don't know, hit the space bar or your
Yeah, not
uh,
very technologically advanced.
that's all right.
But anyway, uh, so I don't know the status, and I don't know if anybody knows the status of the second season.
Yeah, I mean, I have my handy dandy iPad in front of me. I mean, I suppose I could look it up really quick if for the curious. Um, yeah, so the only thing I could find article from September from Screen Rant. And oh wow. The release date for The Rings of Power Season 2 is not confirmed yet, with production estimated to take a couple more years, possibly premiering in 2025-2026.
Wow.
Yeah, I wonder. I think, well, the filming hasn't really been impacted that much by the strikes, and I mean, Season 2 is still happening, but I'm not quite sure why it's taking so long.
Well, this says that it might premiere in 2024.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
But it's not a super reliable source. So we'll hope for that, but we're not sure.
Yeah, anything about Season 2 is probably speculation at this point, so.
Yeah. Well, what season one was? How many episodes again? 8.
Season 1, yeah, I think it was. Season 1 was, yeah, I want to say 8.
Yeah, because a lot of their things, like I watched Reacher, and I watched what was the one with Chris Pratt, the something files. That was 8 also.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that television seasons have gotten shorter in terms of number of episodes over the years.
Yeah, I mean, we used to get like 20 some.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Then it went to 12, and then it's
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Is it because of like increasing television budgets, or?
It probably has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But the episodes for the Rings of Power are kind of long, though.
What's that?
But the episodes for the Rings of Power are kind of long, though.
Yeah. How many were they, like each an hour or hour and a half in length? I can't remember.
I don't remember either. But the Wheel of Time, I mean, that was the second season was 8 episodes, and I'm surprised they were able to wrap it up and with the 8th episode, but they did. And I thought it was a bit rushed, like I said before.
Yeah.
but they would typically go over, the normal 1 hour. And of course, there's no commercials with these, Prime things. You pay for that with your annual subscription to Amazon.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it says that they're contracted for about 50 hours of filming.
Oh, is that?
Or of releasing. Obviously, they're filming more than 50 hours in total, but
I see.
and they're supposed to release about 50 hours.
50 hours, okay. That's slightly less than 10 episodes, I think. So it should be interesting. It should be interesting. I'm waiting to see it because I thought it was entertaining and not total like you, Anthony. I'm not totally happy, but with
Yeah.
everything. But
Right.
you know, this day and time, I'm just happy to have something that keeps my attention for longer than a few minutes.
Yeah.
I think it is good content. I think that everybody who just watches Lord of the Rings is just picky about continuity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who's ever putting this out? It's no Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll see how the second season plays out, and if it'll be better than the first. Not holding my hopes out yet, but we'll see.
Remember,
Also,
you and Chris were kind of disappointed. Let me say that.
yeah, I mean, I used to be a little more open about adaptations, but I think now I'm starting to become a little more purist and cynical.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because of, I don't know whether it's because I'm getting older or just I'm impatient. But
Well, I think as the more research that you conduct about something as well, the more accurate
Yeah.
you want something to be.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
and I've read almost everything written by Tolkien about Middle Earth and then some.
Which is an accomplishment.
Well, it is. I mean, I haven't read. I mean, I remember we're going to discuss Sigurd and
Gudrun.
yeah, and I got the book. I don't think we ever did,
What's that?
or we did the time before I got the book. So, there's so much, and then he wrote about Arthur, the fall of
Yes.
yeah, the fall of
Which,
Arthur.
yeah,
I haven't
which
read that.
yeah, I could introduce some of it if you want. But yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
is that in prose form?
Actually, no,
like
it's
the-
in. So Tolkien wrote it in probably around the 1930s, kind of as he was
Okay.
working alongside The Hobbit, and it's actually written in sort of an English alliterative meter that is in the same style as Beowulf. If you remember Beowulf, we discussed that, of course, that poem, which is probably the most influential on Tolkien's work and
Yeah.
imagination, and it's written in a sort of kind of a style where there's sort of a caesura or break in between two lines. So, like, for example, Beowulf kind of starts, with so this. Well, I'll just kind of I can recite the opening lines of Beowulf here, or pull it up, as translated by Seamus Heaney, Irish poet. So, the Spear Danes, in days gone by, and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We have heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. There was Shield's chieftain, scourge of many tribes, a wrecker of mead benches, rampaging among foes. This terror of the hall troops had come far. A foundling to start with, he would flourish later on, as his powers waxed and his worth was proved. So you can see there's kind of a first part to the line and a second part to the line.
So like a poetic tundra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And this is kind of how he wrote, his own adaptation of the Fall of Arthur. You know, I can read the opening lines of Tolkien's poem here as well. This is from the beginning of the first canto, how Arthur and Gawain went to war and rode into the east. And he writes, Arthur eastward in arms purposed his war to wage on the wild marches, over sea sailing to Saxon lands, from the Roman realm ruin defending. Thus the tides of time to turn backward, and the heathen tumble. His hope urged him, that with harrying ships they should hunt no more on the shining shores and shallow waters of South Britain, booty seeking. So you can see how Tolkien kind of starts in medias res, or which is Latin for in the middle of things, because this is we talked about how in Geoffrey's work, Arthur kind of waged war in Rome against the Romans, and this kind of picks up from where that leaves off, and later on he comes to find out how his stepson, or I guess half-son, Mordred, has taken control of the Isle of Britain and married Guinevere. So, how familiar are each of you kind of with the Arthurian tradition or legend?
A little bit. Like I know that there was like they were all together. Like there was a whole group at one point, and then there was like kind of like in the real life, how there was a separation because of like religious context in the group and in society.
Okay. I don't know if that's quite how it went, but Gary, what would you say where does your familiarity with Arthurian legend come from? Like, did you read any particular Arthurian books when you were young? Or
no, I didn't. I mean, I saw TV shows.
yeah,
You know, I knew who Morgana Le Fay or Morgan Le Fay was.
right.
Not a very nice person. Of course, Merlin the magician. Everybody knows about him. And King Arthur, was a heroic figure. And to be honest with you, most of what I know about the Arthurian legend was taken from that BBC series.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have been pretty popular.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I thought they did a very, very good job on that. I mean, you can stream it and on TV, and I like how it ends. When all of a sudden the sword comes out of the lake in modern times.
Wow. Do you think
Uh,
that Merlin having to serve Arthur helped him develop his sense of self and like didn't make him like a dictator in the future with his abilities?
Yeah. Yeah, like his father was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think perhaps Merlin, at least from what I've read in like Geoffrey Monmouth and and also just maybe watching some adaptations, I think Merlin had a role in kind of softening Arthur a bit. But
yeah,
Arthur is portrayed in Geoffrey Monmouth's work as well as kind of sort of a little bit here as very much a proud warrior who sort of meets his end through treachery from some of his knights at the Round Table. So you can liken that sort of to almost to the breaking of the Fellowship, especially when Boromir starts to tempt Frodo, toward the end of Fellowship of the Ring with giving him the ring so he could, take it to Mordor. Um, so, um, and so, Tolkien's poem. I mean, we probably won't discuss it too much, because we want to get to Tolkien's letters. But, in Tolkien's poems, definitely portrays a kingdom in sort of decline, or because coming from the height, from a sort of golden age, there's no reference really to. There's reference to Camelot, but there's no reference to like the Holy Grail or anything. So it's very much kind of a human portrayal of the Arthurian legend right here, there isn't so much reference to like Lancelot's betrayals, in which he involves himself in an affair with Guinevere, Arthur's wife.
Got really
But,
bad.
yeah, but he is still portrayed as a mighty warrior at Arthur's side. Gawain, or Gawain, as he's pronounced in Welsh, is really kind of Arthur's right-hand man, and he's yet the subject of another poem written in 1400s, which was translated in modern English by Tolkien as well, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I don't know if you ever read that, but and that's probably another work that we'll look at in our subsequent meetings. Yeah, I encourage you all to definitely take a look at The Fall of Arthur, published, I think, back in 2013, so about 10 years ago, and also contains some commentary by Christopher Tolkien, kind of discussing the evolution of the poem as well as the source material. In addition to Geoffrey, I think Tolkien makes use of another alliterative poem called the Alliterative Mort d'Arthur, which was an English poem written in the 13 or 1400s, in sort of that alliterative style, popular in the 13th, 14th century.
Does it read
English.
smoothly?
The alliterative mort. You mean this, or?
Yeah, that.
Oh, this? Just as I was reading it aloud, it can be a bit stilted at times. You kind of have to get used to it. I can
Well, the nice thing about it though is the language is modern English,
yeah.
Yeah.
and it's not in Middle or Old English, which
Which
they
sometimes
would have, they would have written back in the day.
Yeah.
And Tolkien understood that, but he understood he was also writing for a modern audience, in the 1930s and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think if he obviously the poem is unfinished. It kind of breaks off when.
Yeah, well, he was notorious for not finishing his work. In fact, how long did it take him to finish the Lord of the Rings? I mean.
Well, about 17 years. 14 years. 13 years of composition plus another 4 to publish it, edit, revise, and publish it. So.
Yeah.
That's a short answer.
And he had a day job too.
Yeah, and he also had a family. Yeah, so he was an academic with children, so he's always complaining about, trying to make ends meet and being an impecunious academic with children.
So how much do you guys think that what was going on at the time in the world impacted Tolkien's writing?
Ooh, that's a huge question that we've always discussed in these meetings.
It's.
Take a stab at it?
I don't know. One thing. I mean, Tolkien was a veteran of the First World War.
Yeah.
Kind of like C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
And they were good friends. Two of the Inklings. And how he wrote was so different than most of the people, because the First World War had a profound effect on the people of Europe and England.
Yeah.
I mean, the Germans, who were probably the most educated people on the whole continent, took up with a madman, Hitler. The French, they, and the English also, I know in colleges during that time, during the 30s, they were saying we will never, take up arms even to defend our countries.
Yeah.
Of course, that didn't happen, but
Right.
still, this is what they were taught in school, and the horror of war, and probably the best scene I've ever seen in a modern movie was uh, Chariots of Fire,
Oh,
where
yeah.
the Olympic athletes come in to, I think it's Cambridge, where they were going to train. And, they showed the dining hall, the mess hall.
Yeah.
And one whole, if you've ever been to Pearl Harbor and seen the USS Arizona Memorial with all the names on it, the people who died, then you understand it because they've got many more names about the students from Cambridge that died in the Great War. And it was a stupid war that they fought, both on both sides.
Yeah.
And there was no reason for it. And it was done from ignorance and arrogance,
Yeah.
mostly. But it profoundly affected everybody. But C.S. Lewis and j.r.r. Tolkien specifically, did not give up with the uh, mindset and the view of what's heroic and everything else. I mean, like, what's his name? The guy who wrote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and also The Hollow Men.
Oh, T.S. Eliot.
T.S. Eliot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, later on he became a Catholic, and he changed his mind, I think, probably when he was faced with his mortality. But,
Yeah.
that was what most of them were doing as far as on the literary scene by then. So he was, he kept the old, there are heroes, some things are worth fighting for. And for that, I really, I really am in awe of him because he didn't go with what was the prevailing mindset at the time.
Yeah, the modernists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Tolkien was definitely affected by world events. He fought in the First World War. His friends, some of his friends died.
He spent a year in the hospital.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He did get taken out because he developed trench fever and served it was in the hospital. And but I think he did see action at the Battle of the Somme in France.
Yeah, he did. It was a nasty war.
Yeah, yeah, mustard gas and everything.
Yeah.
Trench
And
warfare.
we had a guy. He's in the town I grew up in central Wisconsin, who had been gassed in the
Really?
First World War. And the only thing he could do, Bud Schultz, who ran the local grocery store, gave him a job carrying groceries out for people. But that's the only thing he could happen. The guy could barely walk. He was just a wreck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
yeah, it was a horrible experience.
Yeah, and also Tolkien saw his sons fight in World War II. They were, I think, I know Christopher was his son. Christopher, who edited and published a lot of his father's posthumously published works, was
Yeah.
in the RAF, Royal Air Force, and spent some time in Morocco, North Africa. But Tolkien obviously disliked allegory or a one-to-one correspondence between real life and his fiction. He preferred the term applicability, where it's kind of up to the reader to interpret how you can apply his works toward modern real life concerns. And also he wanted to create kind of his own world. He didn't want any sort of real world, anything from the primary world referenced in the secondary world, his imaginary world.
Yeah, I can understand why he would want to make it feel like a person could kind of relate to what was happening in the Lord of the Rings, but not to have to relive the trauma of the world wars.
Yeah.
Well, I know he didn't like the Nazis,
Yeah.
but at
Yeah.
all.
He called him.
Um,
Yeah. Go ahead.
but one thing, as far as the war influencing him, some people say that his version of Mordor
Yeah.
is based on the Somme
Yeah.
and trench warfare, and
Yeah.
just a horrible place it was.
Yeah. I think Peter Jackson portrayed that well in the
Yeah,
films. And Peter Jackson also coincidentally recently completed a documentary on the First World War, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
the way we were, yeah, something
Yeah,
like
where we
that.
were. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is incredibly talented.
Yeah, Peter Jackson. Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. Is there anything else do we want to discuss regarding Tolkien or King Arthur before we jump into the letters?
No, I have nothing.
Okay. So, kind of picking up from where we were last time, we discussed. Last time we discussed, I believe, 215, a letter to Walter Allen. It was actually most of it was a series of drafts to Walter Allen of the New Statesman, and it was a discussion on. So I guess Tolkien was invited to a symposium on children's literature, and Tolkien kind of went into sort of his philosophy behind writing children's literature and how the literature that we need to read has to be kind of above our measure, above our level, to challenge us to think in different ways and to imagine different possibilities. I'll give you a copy of this. So we're going to start with letter 216, I believe. Let me pull up my copy here.
University of Madras, that's probably in India, right? From a letter to the Deputy Registrar, University of Madras.
I think so. Yeah, it is in India.
Yeah.
Yeah, so letter 216. Would anyone like to read that?
Yeah, I'll start the first paragraph. It's pretty short.
Yeah.
I have to thank you for the honor of appointing me a member of your Board of Examiners. May I respectfully suggest, nonetheless, that it is inadvisable to do this without first consulting the persons appointed. I am unable to accept this examinership and fully occupied with other affairs, and I have in any case retired and do not propose to take any further part in teaching and examining.
Like, I'm busy. I'm retired.
Yeah.
Don't sign me up for a job I didn't ask for.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much commentary to be had about that. Other than what
Well, basically they were trying, whoever was at the University of Madras was trying to, enhance their reputation by using his.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty funny. He was very polite, though,
Yeah.
and very direct.
Yes. At least he knew how to say no. Esther, would you like to read letter 217 from a letter to Alan and Unwin
Sure.
concerning the Polish translation of the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, this should be good.
Yeah.
Because he's not happy with translations usually.
Yeah.
So he says, I am sorry that owing to domestic troubles and turmoil, I have neglected Mr. Skabenguea's letter. It is quite impossible for me to write a lot of notes for her to use. As a general principle for her guidance, my preference is for as little translation or alteration of any names as possible. As she perceives, this is an English book and, in its Englishry, should not be eradicated. That the hobbits actually spoke an ancient language of their own is a course of a pseudo-historical assertion made necessary by the nature of the narrative. I could provide or invent the original hobbit language form of all the names that appear in English, like Baggins or Shire, but this would be quite pointless. My own view is that the names of persons should all be left as they stand. I should prefer that the names of places were left untouched also, including Shire. The proper way of treating these, I think, is for a list of those to have a meaning in English to be given at the end, with glosses or explanations in Polish.
Yeah, so this is kind of what we were talking about earlier with regard to Tolkien's
Translations.
yes, and his particularities when it comes to translating, certain.
Yeah, I
certain
remember the one about its translation to Dutch,
Yeah,
and that was his big problem with it was whoever translated it translated um, at least the English words that he thought were important, like names and stuff like that, into a Dutch form, or what he thought was in Dutch form.
right, and as he says, um, as a general principle for the translator's guidance, my preference is for as little translation or alteration of any names as possible. It's an English book, and its Englishry should not be eradicated. Um, he says, my own view is that, the names of persons should all be left as they stand. I should prefer that the names of places were left untouched also, including Shire. And he goes on to say that, if readers want to know more, there could be like a gloss or an explanation and like footnotes in Polish.
Well, he's got a point because, I mean, England is full of shires,
Yeah.
and it's strictly an English word. I don't know where, it probably came from the German somehow, but it probably doesn't translate well.
Yeah.
Translation is an art. It's difficult.
Yes.
So.
Right now, I'm reading the autobiography of Elizabeth I, and they do have the same sort of glossary in the back for some words.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah, because are there like archaic English words that are in there? Or?
Yeah, there's Latin in there because, back then, a lot of the times they would write down everything the queen would say, like how they do in court.
Yeah.
And so she would speak in Spanish or in Latin.
Yeah, she was multilingual.
Yeah, and she could speak a bunch of languages. And so instead of, it would be written in the language she was speaking, and then in parentheses there would be the English translation.
Right. And so that's perhaps how Tolkien, I guess, imagined how the translator should do it.
Yes.
Keep the English names, but provide explanations or approximate translations in just Polish, in a footnote or something, or an endnote. That's kind of the way it is in I've read some excellent English translations of Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, and they have Tolstoy knew French, and so they some of the characters speak French, and toward the bottom where there's a footnote, they write the English translation. And so, I mean, that to me is kind of the model for like a faithful translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the Russian court, spoke French. That was considered the proper thing to do.
Yeah.
Because they were educated,
Yeah.
It showed you were educated because you spoke French.
And that's the way it was in the English court too for much of the Middle Ages.
French is a
Yeah.
hard language, so
Yeah.
I can see why they would think that would make you educated, because it's definitely a hard thing to learn.
Any other thoughts on this letter? Do we want to read the next letter as well? Letter 218 to Eric Rogers.
Might as well. It's another short one.
Yeah.
Okay, a reply to a letter addressed to any professor of English language at Oxford, asking whether it is correct to say a number of office walls has been damaged or have been damaged.
Oh boy.
So here he apparently got a letter addressed to Professor of English Language j.r.r. Tolkien. Anyway, dear sir, your letter has eventually reached me, though I'm not any professor of English language, since I have now retired? The answer is that you can say what you like. Pedantry insists that since number is a singular noun, the verb should be singular, has, in parentheses. Common sense feels that since the walls is plural and are really concerned, the verb should be plural, have. You may take your choice. Yours sincerely, J.r.r. Tolkien.
He's got an attitude in this one.
Yeah, it sounds like he didn't want to be bothered with this question and
Yeah.
just. But yeah, as the son of an English teacher, I'm probably more of a pedant, so I would insist on subject-verb agreement. Therefore, the verb has is technically the more correct. But in colloquial speech, a lot of us use have. It's almost like
have
yeah,
just sounds better.
yeah, and it sounds a little easier on the tongue too.
Yeah.
Wow, it seems like this is a series of kind of rather short letters.
Yeah.
It's like he's scolding a student
Yeah.
in an essay.
This next one is funny.
Yeah, I can read the next one. 219
Okay.
from a letter to Alan Unwin, which was his publisher. October 14th, 1959. A Cambridge cat breeder had asked if she could register a litter of Siamese kittens under names taken from The Lord of the Rings. My only comment is that of Puck upon mortals. I fear that to me Siamese cats belong to the fauna of Mordor, but you need not tell the cat breeder that. I would love to name a cat Sauron or
Yeah.
Barad-dûr. Let's see, how long is this next letter? Oh, it's not too long.
It's not too long.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and read it.
Yep, go ahead.
220, letter 220 from a letter to Naomi Mitchison, 15 October 1959. I retired, or rather, since even British generals usually imply a voluntary movement to the rear when they retire, I was extruded on the age limit at the end of last term. In many ways, a melancholy proceeding, especially financially. So I have belonged to FSSU, which is
The Federated Superannuation Scheme for Universities.
okay. It's okay. Since it began in 1920, it does not provide enough for one to live on one's laurels, old and dusty as Christmas decorations in January. Without the assistance of hobbits and all that, things would be meager. Nonetheless, not a little encouraged by your letter, I decided to get off of the treadmill and resign from my appointment in Ireland before I returned. I shall, if I get a chance, turn back to the manner of the Red Book and Allied histories soon. So, and also, where are you finding these footnotes?
Oh, I'm reading off my tablet or ebook, so
Okay, well,
I'm able
I
to.
don't know what the deal is with Ireland.
Looks like he was an examiner to the National University of Ireland.
Oh, okay. And without the assistance of the hobbits and all the things would be meager. In other words, he's getting royalties from, writing the hobbits
Yeah, the Hobbit.
The Hobbit. and the Lord of the Rings.
So yeah, these letters were written in 1959, just as I think Tolkien was retiring from his position at University of Oxford, and so.
Did he stay married until then?
Oh yeah, he was married to his wife for all of his life, or
Oh, okay.
until she passed away.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering because obviously, when you retire, my grandparents just retired a little bit ago, and my grandpa gets stressed out about retiring because my grandma costs a lot of money to support.
Oh.
So, I can understand why he is saying that in his letter.
Yeah, I don't know if you can relate, Gary, to when you retired or when. um,
Oh, I had to go to work.
oh,
From the Air Force, yeah, I had to go to work.
yeah,
No, you can't. It depends on what you retire from.
yeah,
I don't know how much of a retirement salary Oxford professor was given, but I think, his works like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit provided him, the royalties from that provided him probably more money.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
My grandpa just
And
retired from Boeing, so you think it would be a lot more than it is for a company that has
yeah,
so
well,
much.
back then it was different. So, um, we got with, what was it, inflation of the currency has been going on ever since. But yeah, it was like, I remember I used to smoke, quit, thank God, but
yeah.
25 cents a pack. And now they're like $10.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
A lot
They're
of
cheaper if you
sin
go to
taxes there. I
Idaho.
realize that.
yeah. You live in
Yeah,
Idaho.
but everything was a lot cheaper, and it was a lot cheaper in the 30s too. But still, you had to have some money, and we could see in some of the letters here, he was dealing with people that would promote or put his works on, the screen one way or the other. And some of them he didn't like, especially the the people, the Americans that were sent over to pitch him
Yeah,
about doing such and such, that type of thing.
yeah.
But it's it's kind of interesting. I mean, when did he became, like I said, I first read The Hobbit in 1965,
Yeah.
and when he became kind of a, I don't know, would you call it, a cult figure, which means we're in a cult.
Yeah, literary celebrity.
Yeah, but this is the start of it. I mean,
yeah.
when I was first introduced to it, this uh, they weren't married yet, but the boyfriend and girlfriend just raved about The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And so I went and bought a paperback edition, and it was neat, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
But it took a while. I mean, that guy at Marquette University has got the rights to, what has he got to? I think just about all his work, and paid him in mid 1950s. When did he finish The Lord of the Rings?
Well, Tolkien finished Lord of the Rings in 1949, but then he took him another couple of years to publish it finally in 1954. So,
Okay, well, this was 55, 56.
yeah.
And this far-seeing librarian of Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, of all
Yeah.
places, um, said, and Tolkien by that time, he wasn't a well-renowned author. I mean, he was respected, but that was because of his, he was a professor at Oxford University.
Yeah, as academic.
So he was looking for money. And anyway, the guy, I forget what he paid him, but he didn't, Tolkien didn't get what it actually turned out to be worth
Yeah.
at that point. So it's just interesting, I think.
Huh. Okay. So, I was thinking, kind of what we could, we could discuss. We only have about 15 minutes left, but maybe just discuss kind of what we want to do next time, or if you want to, or should we wait for Brian and company to get back?
Uh, One of these times, I would like to see us, uh, like you mentioned, Sarah
Yeah, Sarah.
and her, what she had translation into Italian, she left with a, kind of different feelings about the work than we do,
Yeah.
which is in English, which is originally in English. And it'd be interesting to find out, if that's happened all over the place, because Tolkien, the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, if not the Silmarillion, have been translated into most of the world's languages.
Yeah.
In the Polish, in the Dutch, in the German, in the Spanish, of course, into Italian, into French, into Japanese. I would assume into Chinese. So it's something that I find kind of interesting, that they,
Yeah.
it doesn't come off the same way for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be great if we could get Sarah back on and kind of discuss more her impressions of the Italian translation.
Because she's kind of the leader of the group there in Italy,
Yeah.
as I understand it. I mean,
yeah, it's great to see Tolkien fans all over the world.
oh yeah, I mean, he's made a real impact on, not only other authors, but on the whole world himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Well,
fiance was interested in coming in today, but he had to work.
Yeah.
So maybe another time.
But this is something that you don't have to do next month or even this year or whatever. But it'd be interesting to, if we could source the material out. But I don't know. I lived in Okinawa for so long, and then, but I don't know anybody. I don't know any Japanese who read Tolkien, but they do. They're very avid, very educated people.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, and do we want to continue kind of our series of works that influenced Tolkien? Because I know none of you got a chance to read The Fall of Arthur, which is Tolkien's poem, but I put together a list a while back on Tolkien's literary influences, and after Geoffrey of Monmouth comes a French writer by the name of Chrétien de Troyes, who was also influential on Arthurian legend. He wrote a set of Arthurian legends that kind of brought Sir Lancelot and the Holy Grail into prominence within the tales.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Arthurian
what's that?
legend started out as Grail lore, right?
Yeah.
As far as I understand.
Well, actually, the Grail...
Arthurian legend started out as Grail lore, or what was that in France? It was, what was the name? Parzival.
Oh, Percival?
Percival, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the French elements might be a later addition to what is essentially, a work of British origin. But if we want to, move past the Arthurian legend, the next item on this list that I compiled is the Kalevala, which is a Finnish national epic poem. That was also a great influence on Tolkien. It was compiled by a Finnish folklorist by the name of Elias Lönnrot, and it wasn't published until 1835. But Tolkien took inspiration from it because it features the story of Kullervo, who is the only tragic figure in the tale, and this tale is kind of the basis for the story of Turin Turambar and the Silmarillion. And I think there's also a reference to a magic ring in the Kalevala, which of course might have been an inspiration for the One Ring to rule them all.
Well, it's part. I mean, Wagner had his his magic rings and stuff like that in his operas.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it was like, what's the deal with the rings? And I remember reading Beowulf that rings were bestowed on people who had done heroic deeds.
Yes.
So, back in the day, they apparently held a lot more um, significance than they do now.
Right.
I don't know. Could
Yeah.
you publish the list again?
Publish the list again? Oh, yeah, I can resend it out by email.
Okay, because I tell you the truth, I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
I probably
Yeah.
got it, but
I would like to look at that.
Okay, sure. Let's see. Um, let's go ahead and do that now since we're kind of all present. Esther, what's your email address?
Um, uh, my name.
Okay.
And then, JM04 and then at gmail.com.
At Gmail. And is your name spelled ESTHER?
Yes.
Okay. JM04 at gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay.
and just send it out to everybody, Anthony.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'll
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it shortly after this meeting. So, do we just kind of want to wait until Brian comes back to kind of decide what we want to talk about, or
Yeah,
and
we
also
can.
Chris?
I mean, maybe, well, send it out and then also, just put in something like, Brian, you got any ideas?
Yeah, yes, I will. Yeah, I'll send out the email and kind of do a summary of what we discussed, and we, also put in the question of where do we want to go from here?
Hmm.
Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. Everybody
Okay.
needs a plan.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's better to be spontaneous and just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Tolkien before we sign off?
I think that Tolkien has made definitely a big impact on how I read, and how I experience different literature.
Yeah.
And I think that it kind of raises the standard for for a lot of reading for me,
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I really started to get into continuity errors.
Continuity errors. Okay.
And not just with Tolkien, but with other movies as well.
Yeah. Well, you'll find in Tolkien's works that there's some inconsistency because there's a lot of evolution in Tolkien's thoughts about Middle Earth throughout his life, and so there was never really any final conception of certain characters and ideas, except what you might find in his in the works he published during his lifetime, namely The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
As for his posthumously published writings, that's a whole different ballgame. Characters' names were changing constantly. Stories were changing. Fundamental conceptions were changing. So, yeah, that's about the long and short of it.
Yeah.
Gary, do you have any final thoughts?
No, other than I didn't appreciate for the latest issue of Amon Hen, or however you pronounce it.
Amon
The
Hen.
connection between Tolkien and music,
Yeah.
and Hawk
Yeah.
kind of mentioned that at the beginning. Def Leppard?
There's a Def Leppard song that it references.
No, what the heck did he mention?
Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, yeah.
Oh, you not a
Led
fan,
Zeppelin.
or?
I'm not a fan, no.
Oh, well, to be fair, I mean the songs aren't too bad, but if you're not into rock they do. Led Zeppelin did perform folk type of music, so.
Yeah. No, I'm not that big into music either, so for some reason.
Oh,
I enjoy it. I enjoy what I enjoy,
Yeah.
But, I'm old. I enjoy 50s and 60s rock, maybe some 70s.
Yeah. Hey, I like some of that. I like all that stuff too, but.
Okay. But that's about it. That's about it. So
Yeah.
wait to hear from you and from Brian.
Yeah, sure. I'll get in touch with Brian. I'll send out that email with the Tolkien, my little sheet on Tolkien's literary influences, and we'll kind of decide where we want to head next. So I just want to thank everyone who joined us, Esther, Gary, and Hawk, for October meeting of the official Spokane Smile of the Tolkien Society. And I just want everyone to be safe and be well, and Namarie.
The Marie.
Take care. All right.
Oh, sorry, I kept yawning. My dogs kept me up all night.
Oh, that's all right. Oh, that must have sucked. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to this meeting.
Yeah, thank you for having
It was
me.
a pleasure meeting you and contributing. It was great. You made some great contributions, and yeah. Also, you think you plan on coming back? Or?
Yeah, no, definitely. That was really fun. I just think I need to do a little bit more reading to prepare for next time, so I can contribute more to the conversation.
Oh yeah. Well, you contributed a lot to it already.
Okay. Good, I'm glad. I think you guys have just read more of his works than I have, so.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, we've been doing this a lot longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely encourage you to keep reading Tolkien and catch up meetings on the second Saturday of the month.
All right, thanks, folks.